I suppose we're all looking for a whole true story that makes sense. But I think what makes you believe in things is not what's there, it's about what's not there. With any story, the gaps between things is where you locate your belief. You know, it's unbelievable to start with, but that makes you believe it.
The expedition began in 2010. We assembled a group of consultants, ecological experts to advise on avoiding damage to the site, and a representative from the host country to safeguard their interests and oversee what happened to anything we found. We had spent the summer of 2009 remotely mapping the site from the surface. It was clear from our scans that there was something down there, but there was no clear indication as to what it was. I've been doing this job for nearly 30 years, and I wasn't about to jump to any conclusions.
Right, we all here? Coffee? Yes? Very good. Right, welcome everybody. My name's Andrew, and I'm the project director on this expedition. This gentleman here is Piotr Klimek. He's a maritime archaeologist of extraordinary dive experience. He will be leading the team under the water alongside Bruce, who's going to be in charge of the divers. So, we're going to start by ground truthing the main anomalies from the geophysics. And as you can see, we have many artifacts spread over a large area with the major groups here, here, and here. No sign of a ship, which might indicate the wreck is early and the hull totally disintegrated, but do keep an eye out for any hull structure that we might have missed. Don't forget to record your locations as you work and keep in communication with the surface team.
This phase of the expedition is what we call a pre-disturbance survey. And this is mostly to establish really in detail what is and how much of it is down there.
Yeah, go ahead, Piotr, over.
Hello, mate. Just a quick update. We're working our way across the dive site. I wish you could see this. Over.
It began for me in 2008. I was in the middle of my doctoral thesis. I say in the middle, I hadn't really written anything in a couple of months, and I was running out of funds. And then I discovered the clip on the internet. I assumed it was posted by a backpacker or a holiday maker, someone like that. Well, you could see a beach, I assumed East African, and a community of fishermen. And the clip was entitled Fishermen Discover Statue. The group of fishermen have pulled something up in the net. It looked like a curled up fetal monkey. To see something come out of the water that you can't quite explain, that's an adventure. You want to know more. I thought, if these fishermen found one thing, it stands to reason that there is more down there. So I wanted to find this beach, and I wanted to talk to these fishermen.
Yeah, this is the beach. I knew as soon as I saw it, because I've seen it so often on the video. The fishermen said they had been back to look whether there was anything else out there, and they couldn't find anything. So after a lot of negotiation, they took us out to where they said they discovered it. You think we're at the right spot?
Jetzt läuft hervorragend. Ja, wonderful.
Yep.
Yes.
First day, we go to this island. Is this place? I go in, I dive. I dive for hours to end.
Did you find anything?
No.
So that was nothing again?
No. It took us days because it was a blind search.
Nothing?
Nothing here.
Shit. Patience, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. We nearly gave up.
It was on the 5th day. Had my GoPro on, went down, half an hour search. And voila. Finally.
Yes?
This is the place.
You sure?
Yes. Saw something.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Peter sent me the footage. It showed what looked like a classical sculpture that had lain on the seabed for a considerable amount of time. We knew that it was worth pursuing, but it was going to be hard to get funding through the usual channels.
Last year, he caused controversy in the modern art world by creating a diamond-encrusted skull.
Une révolution dans le monde de l'art.
Brash and brazen artist Damien Hirst
is putting more than 200 new pieces up for auction.
Lot number 1, 8,200,000. Any more? 8,300,000. Thank you.
Hirst's open-mouthed shaft staggered all expectations.
Sold to you, Bruno. 8,500,000.
Now that's a pretty penny for a pretty pickle.
One of the people that we approached was an artist who had just been in the news.
I didn't know much about him. To me, he was the shark guy.
I'd had the auction where I sold all my works in, this 3-day big sale. And it really was the point where all the work became commodity, and it was it just seemed like you make something, sell it, make something, sell it, make something, sell it. It seemed unsustainable and unfulfilling.
£9 million and £9 million. Last chance at £9 million. So, congratulations.
For some reason, after that auction, it seemed like something had ended and something new was beginning.
It's a new era in his exploration of inner space.
I love fantasy shipwreck stories when I was a kid. I just love them.
Within the violent waters that cover this earth comes this story of suspense, chills, terror, excitement beyond compare.
All those old movies about treasures found under the sea.
Somewhere in these waters is a treasure worth a fortune in gold.
I mean, I love the sea because it's an element that's alien to us. It's like, you know, it's like another planet on our own planet.
For the ocean is the last of the Earth's great unexplored frontiers.
To find a major sponsor so soon, who had money and an interest, that was amazing. He was basically prepared to take a gamble.
I think everything that I've ever done has been a gamble. But I definitely wasn't tempted to get a wetsuit on because I think the sharks would eat me.
Yeah, this is surface support, go ahead.
I've just located the position. Give me 5 minutes.
From the scans, we knew there was a lot down there, but what we discovered was much bigger and more baffling than we'd expected.
What's amazing is how it's integrated into the reef. And to actually see the corals and everything that's growing onto it and the fish that are attached to it. But it's still a sculpture. It's like nothing you've ever seen before.
To actually find something that's not been seen for, you know, lifetimes. It's almost like, you know, finding something in its natural habitat. That's what's exciting about the whole project.
Nature is sort of claiming it, but it hasn't claimed all of it yet. So it's like there's the beauty of the nature and there's the beauty of the sculpture side by side. It's in a sort of extraordinary garden. It's like a sort of strange Victorian grotto of the underworld.
It takes lots of years for corals to develop, and you start asking yourself, for how long have these things been down here?
You've just got so many questions coming through your mind of how did they get there? How were they made? Who was it that possibly made them? And what size ship was transporting them? Why were they coming through this area? It opens so many questions.
They're huge pieces, just scattered over quite wide area, buried at different angles in the sand. It's no sense really of what happened. There's no sense of accident. Is it a shipwreck? Is it several shipwrecks? It's a mystery. At this stage, it's a mystery.
Well, these are what we found in the first couple of weeks. We have a fascinating range of artifacts developing, a wide range of dates, provenances. The selection of different styles suggests this could be the contents of a merchant ship. As yet, we don't have anything to pin a specific date down.
Today we will start working with the airlift. It's basically a device that will vacuum the seabed, takes away the lighter materials, the sand, silt. You know, for the first time in possibly centuries, you know, we're disturbing what's underneath the sand. There could be much more down there.
I just saw something glinting in the sand. As you work, in the least expected moments, you uncover something that is crucial.
Guys, look at this. All right? Okay.
What is it?
It's Roman.
It's Roman.
Wow.
It is Roman.
Look at this.
Fantastic.
That's Nero. AD 54 to 68. Roman 1st century. Looks like you got yourself a date.
We put ourselves a date.
Big moment for us. The picture starts to become much clearer now.
This is great. Exactly the kind of thing we'd hope to find.
The coin dates from the rule of the Emperor Nero. So we know for certain the ship could not have gone down before 54 AD. And I'm trying to get the important bit up here. Where is it? There it is. It's perfect. And you see him, Nero. So, if we're talking about a shipwreck from between the mid-1st and mid-2nd centuries AD, during this period, there was a Roman market in plunder of earlier classical cities and a market for artifacts from Egypt. And of course, in the 1st century navigational guide, the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, there were records of routes of trade between the Mediterranean world and China in the east.
This document, the Periplus, was key to us. It's proof of trade and cultural cross-pollination across the 1st and 2nd centuries. Proof that a merchant could amass such an eclectic collection. But there were no rich cultural centres nearby where there was any kind of trade in antiques. What was a cargo as big and valuable as this doing off this stretch of the East African coast? We knew the ship was from the 1st or 2nd century. And although the ship's woodwork would have disintegrated, we began to uncover what seemed like the personal effects of a ship's crew.
This is a whole series of plates, bowls. There's quite a lot of diversity here of shapes and forms. Look at that, that looks like a sailor's plate to me. That's a load of coins all accreted together. There's some loose ones here as well. But that would have been probably in a sack. And the whole sack went down and the whole thing's fused together. Nice, isn't it?
Hello, guys. And then we found something else.
Where is Angel? The bar.
It was a huge surprise and a huge clue.
My God. So. This is a bolt that would have been used in the keel of a ship, the 1st or 2nd century AD. And this is truly enormous for something of this kind. I've only ever seen a few examples from this era, but the biggest I've seen have been from a Roman wreck from the French coast at La Madrague de Giam. And that ship was big, but this is much bigger, and it's broken at the end. You know, it's sheared off, so who knows what the actual size would have been.
This one bolt meant that we could, with the help of our colleagues from Southampton University, spend the whole winter recreating how the boat might have been built and what it might have looked like.
One of the biggest vessels that we have to compare it to is from south of France, Madrague de Giam, and this is a cross-section through the bottom of that vessel.
That's the bolt.
That's the bolt running right the way down there, and the one from your site is way, way bigger. So it's got to be coming off a much, much bigger ship. So we went through to some of the really standard iconography from the ancient world that gives us this idea of the recurved bows. That's consistent with the Madrague, and it's what they seem to be using on these really, really big merchant ships. What we got to with doing that was this.
So what are we talking lengthwise, do you think?
60 metres.
60 metres.
60 metres seemed
50%
like a...
bigger.
So, yeah. So really, really big. And we know vessels that big could have existed. You know, it's not outside the realms of the engineering capabilities that they had. You know, quite a lot of crew on this boat, a lot of big, heavy mast sails. I thought we'd go a little bit further and start to look at the actual vessel sailing along. So we've just taken our basic reconstruction and we've given it the sort of CGI treatment, if you like.
Hollywood treatment.
Yeah. And there it is sailing along. And you get a real idea of the scale of the thing. Even at the guy just out on the flying gallery at the front.
Quite simply, we were looking at an enormous ship. We knew the ship was from, well, probably from the 1st or 2nd century. And so we knew that we were looking at, by far, the largest ship from that period to ever have been identified.
I was looking for records of an extraordinarily large ship. Even though import and export duties would have been levied and recorded, very little survives. Shipping records for the East African coast during the 1st and 2nd centuries after Christ are virtually non-existent. There was nothing that helped me identify it. So I started looking into eyewitness accounts that would have recorded a monumental ship. The great Roman chroniclers like Tacitus or Pliny the Elder mentioned nothing. Neither did the more obscure diarists. So I moved on to Tales of Legend. And that's how I discovered the story of Aulus Gellidius Amutan. As the legend goes, Amutan was a man freed from slavery, and he developed this love of beautiful things and amassed this huge collection of treasures. He planned to build a monumental palace or a temple to house them all. And he built the Apistos, the largest ship known to man, to transport them all. On this great voyage to the temple, the ship was struck by a storm or attacked by a giant sea monster, depending on what version of the story you read, and lost forever.
In the 1st century AD, one of the really popular genres of literature was collections of marvels, collections of interesting things that were said to have happened. But how many of these texts tell the truth, and the absolute truth is a very big question. I would say it's naive to take the story entirely at face value, but I wouldn't say it's naive to think that there is a kernel of truth in it somewhere. But how many pieces of art he had, what it was that he had, how far he sailed, why he sailed out, and all of that is the stuff that will have been legendized in the telling.
Now to the Mediterranean. Legend tells of an eccentric collector's enormous ship and his worldly possessions lost at sea. Captain George Knowles has made it his life's work to find the treasure.
I think it's a very human thing to romanticize the story of Amutan. I suppose your common sense would tell you this is just made up, this is just a story, but then if you actually find proof of it, it becomes that much more remarkable because it's actually true.
One or two of the more credulous treasure hunters of the 20th century took this obscure legend seriously.
I come from a background where we must have proof and we must have evidence. Ours is a hunt for knowledge and not treasure.
Any firm details about where the wreck may lie have been lost in the sands of time.
I started to believe that the wreck had not been found, not because it was a myth, but because people were looking in the wrong place.
Captain Knowles swears he will leave no stone unturned until he has found the lost treasure.
Peter's romanticism, I think, sometimes got the better of him.
Morning, Bruce.
Andy.
Yep, we're back this year for another 6 weeks. This is as long as we can dive for before the weather changes. And the plan is to look at some of the bigger pieces and hopefully bring them up.
Peter, divers standing by for the crane, over.
That's okay, we're going to swing over a bit towards you.
This is it.
Quick update. I'll just get the final confirmation. And I'll give you the go-ahead to start lifting. Over. Go ahead and start lifting to the surface. Over. Okay, that's ready to now. Over.
see this.
Okay, so I can see it. It's down there. Oh my goodness, look at that. Fantastic.
Look at that. You can see its teeth. What you're looking at is the skull of an elephant or great mammoth. It looks like it's man-made, carved out of marble. When the Greeks and Romans discovered fossil remains, they informed their popular beliefs. And it used to be thought, with skulls like this, with the large single cavity in the center of the face, that these gave birth to, or at least justification to the existence of Cyclops and mythological tales. I think it's an incredibly detailed example of the power of mythology.
One thing that excited me about the project is how you inhabit the past, and it's like it's unknowable, really, but little glimpses and fragments of objects and stories, that's what makes you kind of know the past.
All right, diver Bruce, support, over.
Let me know when you're ready for lifting. Over. Okay, guys, we're ready to lift now. Over.
History's always been rewritten and rewritten. You know, the solidity that we call history is written from fragments.
Amazing, look at him, that raised spine. Wow, look, you can see how he's oxidized under there. He's been there for some time, it looks like. Human features with bestial traits, characteristic of the Mesopotamian demon. The question is, could this be the so-called Pazuzu demon?
In the 1920s, British archaeologists were digging in the upper Tigris Valley of Mesopotamia. They discovered a small settlement along the banks of the river. And among their finds was thought by some to be a head of the Babylonian demon king, Pazuzu.
Stylistically, they both seem to be of a piece.
I remember when I first saw the demon, I was asking myself, why am I believing it? Am I believing it because it's got these missing parts? You believe it because it's, you know, in a history of it travelling through time, through thousands of years, it's bound to have, you know, had accidents and mishaps. And I love the way that time can age it and deteriorate it. It's like the action of the world on this object. You realise that everything in the world is going to become fragments. And then you realise that that's really where belief lies, is between fragments.
We thought he was, you know, lost forever, and this could be him. And he's beautiful.
What makes you believe in things is not what's there, it's about what's not there.
A cyclops, demons, unicorns. It did tell us a little bit about Amotan's character.
I think he genuinely believed in monsters, he believed in cyclopses, he believed in unicorns. You know, I mean, I just think he was that type of a person. And I guess if you believe in them in the beginning, then you You know, you create things to justify their existence.
Whether it was this Amatan that Peter's talking about, or whether it's somebody else, these are not objects that are just randomly chosen. I'm not prepared to say it is Amatan, but for my money, there's certainly somebody with a vision and with a dream, a massive dream, and a pretty big ego behind all of this. I can't see this as a trading vessel. There are very definite aesthetic choices being made here. I think if it was trade stuff, you'd see multiples of similar things. This seems to be more coordinated.
Obviously, Amatan had an idea of an audience, and then his dreams were scuppered when the boat sank. But now these objects have come back up again. I wanted to find a great place to exhibit them. The Venetians amassed collections and brought things from far reaches of the world. You know, when you look at the 4 horses in St. Mark's, and you realise that they're a massive symbol of Venice, and so is the lion. But they came from faraway lands. They weren't really a symbol of Venice, they were plundered. The lion came from Athens, and the 4 horses came from Constantinople. The history of where they came from is lost, and they become totally synonymous with Venice.
Yeah, it's Andrew, Diver 2, go ahead, over. Well, let's go to the office.
Andrew, can I close that door? We've got a little bit of a problem.
Uh-huh.
We found a lot of gold.
That's great news.
Okay. Yes, but it would undermine our security here.
We drifted in a strong current over quite a wide area. Over sea grasses, over big lumps of coral. And then we found scattered, half-buried gold objects. So on one hand, I was thinking, my God, this is possibly the greatest moment of my career. But on the other hand, panic set in. Because this stuff is worth millions.
Yeah, I mean, to find this much gold is thrilling, but for an archaeologist, it's a big problem. Your gut instinct is to bring up something valuable, but we can't do that.
Roughly how long will it take us to get up? We ordered to see how to bring it up.
No, we can't bring it up because then, you know, we lose the advantage of being able to see it in situ.
My solution is simple. I mean, you bring this stuff up as soon as you can.
The reason I sold money for this is to find what, you know,
This expedition is not about treasure.
No, I'm just saying, bring it up now. That way it's safe. We know where it is.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point.
The more time goes by, the more people will know.
We want to be able to study why it's sitting there, where it's sitting, how the marine life has grown around it. This is how you, you work on it.
I get that, but what time frame are you looking at?
Let's say 7 days minimum. We increase the security quietly.
I just think you're naive in thinking that we're keeping this quiet for 7 days.
Peter, you need to trust our judgment on this, okay?
Now, I know we're all really excited, but, you know, this goes without saying. Those confidentiality agreements that you signed, they're serious, okay? No photos, absolutely nothing posted on the internet, or any bloody tweets or anything like that.
The chances are that once the truth is out, it will just generate all sorts of interest, you know, from treasure hunters, from pirates, from all sorts.
Really, what I want to be able to do is to just double the security for the remaining week.
There you have a ship, but I don't know what is going on. But the people, they go there, they come back, you know.
There's a lot of villagers here, they saw that maybe they'd search for something like maybe gasoline, petrol.
They make research for fish, maybe.
Some friends, they told me that they see big like a sculpture, like a woman. They sit down on the sea there.
What I'd like to do is just give a briefing on what we want to achieve this morning.
Ready?
We're going to load the pucker up first, and we're going to put all the lift bags, all the ropes, and the gear for most of the divers onto the pucker, and we're going to send it out. Okay. Any questions on that?
So today's the big day. We've decided, after much deliberation, to bring the gold items up.
Expected time of arrival, 10 to 15 minutes from now. Over.
Okay, over and out.
See, here it comes.
See the colour?
That's the edge. That's the edge. Fantastic. How heavy is that?
There you go. What do you think of that?
Thank you.
I don't think anyone could ever imagine that something like this would happen to them. You dream about it, but do you honestly believe that it will? Probably not.
Straight into the water?
Yep.
I mean, the amazing thing about the gold works that were found is that gold doesn't tarnish, so they're totally timeless. It's shiny and it sort of dances in your eyes. You see it in movies. The guy opens the case and this gold shines on their faces. It was there's so many objects made of gold. I mean, his collector, he was obviously obsessed with it as a material. Gold makes people do crazy things, you know, it's like it has done for years. You know, there's a lot of blood associated with gold. You know, gold can drive people mad. I mean, who's to say what makes it like that? Is it its rarity, its scarcity, or is it, you know, is it something, you know, naturally inside the metal itself?
Fantastic. Unbelievable. Got it?
Jesus. God.
Can't believe these things. It is truly beautiful.
It's interesting that the gold was found on its own. I think that indicates to me that maybe they tried to escape with the gold. You know, the ship was definitely going down. It was irreparably damaged, and they thought the gold was worth the risk of putting in a smaller boat and trying to escape with.
If you rely on myth, if you rely on legend, people tend to not take you very seriously. But this vast amount of gold suddenly made my story come to life. At this point, I was prepared to go out on a limb by saying that what we had found was indeed Amotan's treasure.
Today, one of the divers uncovered a huge golden disc. And it was found in an area where we found many of the other gold items, but it was completely covered with silt. And obviously there's pressure now to bring it up as soon as possible.
ahead, over.
Andy, the weather's picked up a bit.
Right.
We weren't expecting any wind today. It's just picked up.
How long is it going to be before we know?
Well, we'll just take it hour by hour and see what the weather does. I've stopped all operations.
That's a very good lady.
We'll postpone until tomorrow. Hope for better weather.
We left a minimal crew on board for now, just to keep it safe. And we're waiting for the weather to clear. It's not looking like it's clearing, is it?
It's important that we lift the gold disc as soon as possible. To me, it's the clearest indication yet that we have found Amotan's treasures. In later versions of the Amotan myth, the hero gets visited by the goddess Artemis, who instructs him to build a temple to the sun god Apollo, and that becomes his motivation to collect the great treasures of the old world.
This story was told after Christianity took hold and can be read as a warning against embracing the old pagan gods, with Amotan punished for worshipping false idols, gods going back to the earliest civilizations.
Must have been a night like this that it all ended for Amotan. Imagine the Apistos loaded with Amotan's collection coming up against a storm like this. The sun is back. The sun god Apollo is with us. I believe what we're lifting today isn't just a gold disc. It's evidence of solar worship. An image of the sun, a sun disk.
Sun disk has been used by many civilizations and cultures to venerate the god of the sun by literally reflecting its rays. The Egyptians and Incas used them, the Japanese, and the Celts. The ancient Egyptians believed the sun's daily pattern of regeneration suggested their own rising after death. This was symbolic of the sun's power to give life or to take away.
I think that this sun disk is the centerpiece for Amotan's temple to the sun god Apollo. And the other items that we found, they were to fill the temple.
Welcome, everyone. The good news is, with just a few more things to bring up tomorrow, we have retrieved 82 items. The bad news is, it seems there's nothing else down there, so our work here's over.
Well, what about the drop-off?
Yes, we have a drop-off here. The depth drops down to 60 to 100 meters.
So, legend has it that there were 100 objects in the boat. Because we've got 15 or so missing, perhaps we should look there?
You know, the side scan didn't pick anything up.
Or perhaps we didn't scan further enough into the drop-off.
Yeah, I mean, we know that ship is driven from the deep water onto the reef because of the way that the cargo spilled out. I'm really happy. I mean, Peter, you should be very happy.
I am. It just feels like the end is missing. To go home now, knowing that there is an area that I haven't looked at, it doesn't sit right. We've got 2 more days.
Yes, we've got 2 more days, but, you know, we've got an awful lot to do. I don't really want to start investigating another area when, you know...
Well, it's not another area. It's the drop-off. We know where it is.
OK. Peter would like us to explore further into the drop-off, which we have scanned. We didn't find anything.
If we're not coming back, shouldn't we make sure that we've checked everywhere? We're just going to have one last look in the deep drop-off. I know that this is a long shot, you know.
Okay, here we go. How deep are we?
60. That's 60
We're
meters.
at 60 now. So we're moving north. Loads of marine snow. Just give it a minute. Sorry, guys, this is it's far from great, but this is all we could get, really. Okay, so nothing. So I'm trying to make a loop and sort of go back.
What are these things?
It's pretty much just broken
That
coral.
is Stockholm coral.
Oh,
was something, wasn't it?
That is
You saw something?
Yes. Look,
Hang on.
I can't see it.
Shit. Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
We've got something.
Wait. Where's that?
Oh, come on. Can you go back to where we were?
Okay.
He's trying.
That was definitely a figure.
You sure?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, God, this...
What is that?
Jesus, that is part of the figure.
There it is. Look at that.
This is 2 figures.
So we're coming back next year, I guess.
Well.
Wow.
The first thing that came to me was the title. Treasures from the Wreck of the Unbelievable. I started thinking of it as a sort of statement, so it's like treasures from the wreck of the unbelievable, like it's kind of something inside your mind. Like the unbelievable was a place in your mind. You know, years ago when I was a student, I was living in a squat in White Hart Lane with some mates. In my bedroom, I could hear a guy who lived next door, and I could hear him through the wall. And then I stopped hearing him. I mean, we thought maybe something had happened. And then after I didn't hear him for about a week, I got my friends and I said, look, come on, let's go and have a look. So we kicked both doors down and then went in there. We actually went in first of all because we thought maybe he'd died. It was like the whole room was just filled with stuff and there was nobody in there. I found out later he was called Mr. Barnes, but at the time I didn't know what he was called. He was one of those guys that went round like with a shopping trolley and the bags and he'd collect things, he didn't bring them back, so he was like a hoarder. The rooms were piled high with stuff and I went to the top of these piles and I excavated through the piles and I found like every toothpaste tube he'd ever used, money wrapped up in bags, you know, lots of magazines from like the 40s and the 20s. It was like a whole bag of 50p's and then a bag of 2p's. He had a collection of like clocks. He sort of converted them, painted them, mended them. It was like 60 years of existence in one space. I don't know, there's something about this man that I got to know. Going through the time, there were like layers of, you know, geography going through them. But when we got to the table, I found a normal man. And he'd just put objects on a table and put objects on a table until he'd kind of lost his mind or lost touch with civilization and then created this huge collection. I mean, in a way, it becomes an infatuation when you discover something like this. And you try and get inside the mind of somebody who no longer exists. You start to go on this journey, and then you kind of get lost in it. With any story, I think you get interested in, you know, the characters. You know, I'm a collector and I'm an artist. I understand all those things about money and collecting and, you know, the kind of addiction of it. Looking at Amatan through his collection and through his objects. He was a collector like today's collectors are. I think that he begged and borrowed and commissioned and stole to amass this collection.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to be diving a little bit deeper this year. We're going to be diving down to 60 meters, so all the usual procedures will apply. And we have a new diver this year. His name's Peter. We are going to do this as an assisted dive. Okay, let's hit that drop off.
Diving to this depth for the first time is strange enough. These figures, like they've always been there. And because you can float around them at any height, you sort of forget how big they actually are.
You know, I like the fact that Amatan was kind of nuts on the scale of what he tried to do. He seems kind of arrogant in lots of ways, and then he seems foolish in lots of other ways. But above it all, he seems driven to amass this collection.
So we've identified 3, perhaps 4 sculptures in deep water. Because of their depth and because of the size, we really want to bring them up as soon as we can.
You know, this piece we estimate to weigh up to upwards of 30 tons. We've already had a few divers down to have a scout to see, you know, how we might lift it.
The idea is to have that as your main lifting point. Then you have secondary lifting points there.
There's been a huge amount of planning in this because we don't even know how fragile it is. I mean, just the scale of it and the fact that it survived this long potentially means it must be a very fine casting.
Everything in place?
I hope so. A bit worried, a bit nervous. Well, the worst case scenario is that we've underestimated the weight of us and it pulls the crane over. This is just a worrying moment as the crane takes over from the lift bags. Kuchukua boom kidogo ulete hapa. Crane's doing more work than the lift bags now. I feel the barge listing slightly.
Do I think
The enormous ship of legend existed? It's completely impossible to say whether this ship that ended up here was the Apistos. It certainly chimes with the legend, and it would have been similar in scale to the legend, but we'll never know.
I know that not all the pieces of the puzzle are here. I'm very aware of that. But I think we have enough pieces of the puzzle to support a story.
When you think about the whole story, it's unbelievable to start with. But most things from history do seem very hard to believe. You know, you look at the Venus de Milo and look at the way the arms are cut off on it, and you think somebody must have done that on purpose. For me, the whole exhibition was about belief. Belief in the past, belief in God, belief in gods, or not believing. And belief is a strange thing because there's no absolute truth. Artists don't have the answers, and science doesn't have the answers, and religion doesn't have the answers. But somehow collectively we create some kind of a truth. And whether you believe in anything or not, I think we need something.